from Kern Government Television. Welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting. Originating from the County Administrative Center, located at 1115 Truxton Avenue in Bakersfield, California. Grounded in ideas, energy, and innovation, Kern County's vision is to be a driving force for the world's fifth largest economy. And our mission is to exceed expectations of the communities we serve, changing the way they feel about government, those who manage it, and the services it provides. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Peters.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, November 29th, 2022, 2 p.m. meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will first hear from County Counsel Margo Rezon for a report on actions taken in closed session.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. This morning in closed session, you met on items number 51, 52, and 53, and there is no reportable action.
Thank you, Madam Counsel. We're going to begin by considering the consent agenda, and agendas are located at the tables near the doors for anyone wishing to follow along. All items listed with a CA or a C above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. The CA represents the consent agenda for the Board of Supervisors. The C represents the consent agenda for the Kern Sanitation Authority. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. So at this time, I'm going to read the consent agenda item numbers for the Board of Supervisors agenda. And those items will begin on page 3, would be items 5 and 6 on consent. On page 4, items 7 through 9 are on consent. And before I forget, I do have something to read in for item number 6. For item number 6, we do have a proposed revision to the recommendation. Subsequent to the distribution of the staff report for this item, staff noticed that under the proposed changes to section 19.22.010 of the zoning ordinance, the word gross was used instead of the word net. An addendum staff report was prepared today along with the revised ordinance correcting this typographical error. Therefore, the new recommendation for this item is to adopt resolution and recommended findings, waive reading, and introduce revised ordinance amending sections 19.22.010, 19.80.020.b, and 19.80.020.I of Title 19, Kern County Zoning Ordinance. But as I said, the item remains on consent. And so on page 4, items 7 through 9 are on consent. Page 5, all items 10 through 12 are on consent. On page 6, all items 13 through 18 are on consent. On page 7, all items 19 through 26 are on consent. On page 8, all items 27 through 34 are on consent. Page 9, all items 35 through 41 are on consent. And finally, on page 10, all items 42 through 45 are on consent. So at this time, I'll ask if there's any members of the audience that have any questions or concerns or comments about any of those consent items I read for the Board of Supervisors. So that would not include item numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the agenda. Do we have any questions on those? Okay, seeing none, then I'll return to the board and ask if there's any questions or comments, or I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda and to adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and reconvene as the Kern Sanitation Authority.
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. So we are now sitting as the Kern Sanitation Authority, and we'll consider the consent agenda, which includes which includes item C1. And I'll ask now if there's any members of the audience that have any questions or comments on item C1. Okay, seeing none, then I'll return to the board for any questions or comments, or entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda and to adjourn as the Kern Sanitation Authority and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. So we have reconvened as the Board of Supervisors and will consider item number 2 under public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct the staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. And so now I'll ask if anyone would like to make a public presentation. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state your name and good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Ralph Robles. I am a veteran. I've been coming to these meetings to warn you about our election process here in this county, that it needs to be reformed, and have requested a forensic audit of the past 2 elections. Here are some of the rules that I have found in my research for how to steal an election. Rule 1, bloat the list of voters with dead people, people who are moved away, and people who are not eligible to vote. Rule 2, do a mass mail-in of ballots to all who are on the voters list. Rule 3, let the incumbent manage the election process. Rule 4, use voting machines that can be easily compromised. Rule 5, ensure that the high number of adjudicated ballots are processed away from poll observers. Rule 6, ensure that the poll observers are unable to do their job effectively. Rule 7, suppress the vote in precincts where the undesirable candidate has an advantage. Rule 8, slow the ballot count when the votes are going too strongly for the wrong candidate, or even interrupt the count so that the ballots for the preferred candidate can be cured. Rule 9, declare the preferred candidate the winner before the vote count is even complete. During this last election, the voters have decided to limit your terms of office to 2. That was a message. The people of Kern County are not happy with your management of their affairs. I remind you, you are not their rulers, you are their servant. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Good afternoon.
Hello, I'm Danielle Bartholomew. I'm with Community Interventions. I wanted to post my concerns as a resident for the Parks and Rec, for the bathrooms. Particularly in the area that I live in as a resident. I live currently around Bell Terrace and Casa Loma Park. And the bathrooms are very troublesome. The ones at Bell Terrace are never open. It's taking an impact on the ability to use the park. It used to be very functionable. Used to be a lot of kids' activities there that drew kids from my block, that occupied them in ways they needed to be occupied outside in sports and activities other than being inside or bored and causing trouble in the neighborhoods. The Casa Loma Park is the same way. The grass is yellow, the bathrooms are never open, I don't ever see families there. And as a resident, I don't want to bring my kids there. It's awful. My kids don't even want to run on the grass. And if you can't enjoy it and use the facilities there, it's just a bathroom. Nobody wants to go all the way home just to use that, when it should be it's a public right to be able to use the bathroom and enjoy family time outside in the sun and in the grass that the park offers. Because a lot of places that you live don't have grass. So you go there to subside what you don't have outside for yourself. And it's a big concern. And I also did a trip with Eddie and Reggie, and we went around to the parks. And the Bell Terrace Park is only has no bathrooms open. They've constantly act like they're cleaning them, act like they come and service them. They're never open. It doesn't matter the day of the week. I go there and check just because my kids go there a lot. I don't live very far from there at all, walking distance.
Ma'am, your 2 minutes has expired, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
if there's time,
No, it's okay.
they have time as well. So 2 minutes apiece. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reginald from Community Interventions. I'm a resident of District 5. I understand there's like $7 million supposed to be spent on Wi-Fi, but what about putting that money towards light structure inside of District 5? I'm talking about Heritage, to be exact. If you go to Heritage right now with 20 people, one of you guys at a time are able to use the restroom. There's 4 restrooms, there's no soap, there's no toilet paper, and it's really dirty. Supposedly, there's somebody that's supposed to be cleaning them, but that's not happening. That's about it.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Next speaker, please.
I'm Eddie Lane. Let's just go through these slides for a minute, please. Can we have the next slide, please? This is Heritage Park. We did have one restroom open. I appreciated the group. We went out and did a little survey. So that's what you have today, kind of a visual survey. We had one restroom open there. Please continue. Pioneer Park. This probably was the best park of the lot. And this is progress. And I do want to indicate that we're happy to see progress. There's much more to be done. But we're very happy to see progress. Next slide, please. These are 2 restrooms open. What was important about this is there was graffiti, but it was painted over. And if that graffiti is painted over on a regular basis, there'll be less chance that it'll stay because people know the graffiti's not going to stay. Please continue. Here's Rex and Acres, 2 restrooms open there. There was some outside graffiti. I want to mention that. And I think that's the last. What Virginia Avenue? This was a real problem. You can see somebody tore the sink off the wall, and there was considerable graffiti there. So maybe that's the last one, I think. So this is an update. What we intend to do is maybe every 3 months, do an update again, because the commitments were made to open these restrooms to the public. So we want to come back periodically and kind of show you a progress report. That's what we've done today. Also, I passed out a handout. The handout is a written version of what you're seeing here on the screen. It is important that people who live in the economically disadvantaged communities receive top priority from Kern County. And you've heard from a couple this afternoon, and I know I represent the Sierra Club. Economic justice, that's a term we use, and it's very important, environmental justice. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez?
Thank you, Chairman. Eddie, we've been doing some work out at the Bell Terrace Park and the MLK School, as you're probably aware of. My office has allocated $2 million to that park, of which we've only had the opportunity to spend about a quarter of it. And I've just been pulling my hair out. COVID, the housing construction crisis, the cost of materials, staff shortages, you would just be astonished, really, as to how complicated it is to get this stuff going and off the ground. And I would like answers too. It's not agendized, so I would love to have this matter back, Eddie, because I think it'd be great to look at where those dollars, I know they've been allocated. Mine have been allocated for some time, Eddie, and we're still waiting for the work to be done. It's in the queue, right? It's lined up, and unfortunately, government is very slow at such things, and it is maddening. These issues, however, are fairly easy to address, I think. They're not as complicated as the new playground equipment or the splash pad we're putting there, or just lots of stuff that we've done. So I appreciate you being here. It's just so important to bring light to the matter. Ryan, if we could just, maybe in January, look at where are we in those bathrooms. There's such a huge, huge issue in my district in particular. And I think it would be nice to just take a look at it and get a realistic timeline, because I promise you, these guys are pouring in money, tons of money to the parks. We've got lots scheduled for our heritage in particular. Really exciting upgrades there. Unfortunately, it's going to be a minute. So let's take a look at the timeline and continue to work together on building up these areas, because I think, squeaky wheel gets the oil, as you know. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Supervisor. And I see that Mr. Alsop has punched in, and his office with General Services, this is all under their purview. Mr. Alsop, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Appreciate Mr. Lane and company being here today, and appreciate and look forward to his progress reports. Those will be great, and we welcome those. They're only, other than a restroom in Mojave and Rosamond, which were both burned down. There are only 2 parks that have closed restrooms, one of which is Bell Terrace, and the other one is in Lamont. Both are in need of substantial repair. They're a threat to public health and safety. Those 2 restrooms have historically have had persistent problems with the homeless, illegal drug activity, vandalism, and a homicide in one of them. In Lamont, at Lamont Park, while that restroom is closed, it will be reopened tomorrow, but I want everybody to keep in mind we're doing a complete renovation of Lamont Park from top to bottom, multi-million-dollar renovation of that park through state grant funds. Bell Terrace, if you go out there, Supervisor Perez, you're right, you have allocated a great amount of money to refurbish that park. There is an $800,000 renovation happening out there right now at Bell Terrace Park. The restroom's closed because it's wrecked and it's expensive to fix, and we will get to it. Virginia Park, the picture that Mr. Lane showed, what wasn't said was that restroom was completely renovated a month ago and reopened, completely repainted, refurbished, and opened. And as you can see, somebody's torn a sink off and spray painted graffiti and ripped things off the walls. I mean, this is an ongoing struggle. Even though we're locking those restrooms at night now and opening them up again in the morning, we're still having problems with graffiti. And when we see it, we'll go out and clean it up. But these are things that are being done in that community, and we've got to keep pace with it. We will be redoing that restroom completely in the future. But those restrooms are open. Casa Loma's open. Both Virginia and Casa Loma are getting new playgrounds very soon. But Casa Loma restroom's open. We've had some issues out there. One of our cleaning people was held at knife point and had all of her stuff stolen not too long ago at Casa Loma Park. So these are challenges with maintaining restrooms and the parks. Heritage Park, we are doing a complete renovation, as you know, multi-million-dollar renovation of Heritage Park, which includes complete renovation of the restroom, play areas, and everything else. So all these restrooms that were closed in the Metro Bakersfield area, with the exception of Bell Terrace, are open. We are locking them at night and opening them again in the morning, and we are cleaning them every day. Doesn't mean graffiti comes off every day, but if there's toilet paper missing when a picture's taken, maybe somebody stole the roll. Maybe somebody used an entire roll. I don't know. But that roll will be replaced by the maintenance crew that comes in the very next day. So we are out there on a daily basis, restocking these restrooms, cleaning them, locking them, unlocking them, and that doesn't come without cost. But I think that that kind of investment is needed, and we're going to continue to try and do a good job. But an incredible amount of investment, and I do want to make a correction. We don't have $7 million for Wi-Fi in parks. We have $2 million that's been bucketed for Wi-Fi in parks that will be utilized as we renovate different parks. For instance, Heritage, Lamont, Mojave, all of these parks are getting big renovations, and we'll go in and consider how we wire these parks for high-speed internet access for free to the public as we go along.
Thank you. Supervisor Perez?
Thank you, Chairman. Ryan, thank you for that. I appreciate it. The Wi-Fi project is very important, guys. We have so many people in the district who simply cannot afford internet at home. That's such a huge part of my district. We have to create public spaces for folks to acquire skills and get into the job stream. It's just, they cannot access it any other way. Libraries are limited in their so you know, it's always a balance, right, of these such important issues. But I would like to propose, Eddie, to your group, you know, when I was in Lamont in my early days, when I used to work for Michael a million moons ago, before I was in elected office, I would work with John Money out in Lamont. He was from the Sheriff's Department. He was like the unofficial mayor of Lamont. And could get elected there right now, I promise you, if they had a formal government. He was so beloved in the community because of his work with the kids. And the kids loved him, he loved them, he was strict with them, but they responded to his authority very respectfully. It was really a beautiful thing we had, and we took these kids all around the state, and we did a whole host of good stuff with them. But one of the main things we did with them was a graffiti removal project that we would, the county would provide the materials for, right, out of our building department and out of our planning departments. All of the materials, but the community would come up with the labor to have a quick response to these graffiti issues. I think if you're serious about taking your park back, or the parks back, the parks that are surrounded by, you know, some of the most challenged, disconnected youth in the country, the kind of violence, gang violence, poverty, I mean, you know, there aren't enough resources to keep these restaurants in the condition you want them in. Excuse me, these restrooms. I assure you that. And yet it's what we want, and it's so pivotal to the park and its functioning. So if you are open, you know, I think we need to get a sort of park watch program going with members of the community, right, who are out and present and who can volunteer time, because we don't have the staff and we're not going to have it. So get that out of your head as fast as you can, right, so we can get to solving the problem. But if we have a community network of people that are keeping an eye on the neighborhood, right? When we first rebuilt Lamont Park a decade ago, you know, we did that by raising private dollars because there just wasn't a lot of park money. Kern County is not a wealthy county. So we, you know, these things were always, we were kind of hustling to get it done. And in poor neighborhoods, you know that they just break down at a faster rate for a whole host of reasons. But when we did that, we raised money, we went out, invited the community out, and they actually rebuilt the equipment there, right, so that they had some ownership in that park. And obviously we still have work to do there. I know Supervisor Couch is doing quite a bit there at the park, and I think there's major hats off to that. They are this is a team and a community effort, right? I mean, you can come here and express your frustration. There is power in that. But fundamentally, you have to organize around that park and say, we're going to take one park at a time and establish like a sort of a neighborhood watch. We can make it a park watch. And people can come over, pop your head into the bathroom and check, you know, see if there's riffraff going on there, because those folks don't want to be any accountability at all. And if there are people there and families there, they're going to hightail it somewhere else, right? So I think we got to think along those lines, right? How do we organize the community to take ownership back of that park? Because it's ultimately that community's responsibility. There aren't enough resources, and people from another community aren't going to care in the same way. They've got their own community to care about, right? So I think if you can help me think along those lines, we can provide the resources, we can provide food, snacks, you know, we can do all that. But the manpower and frankly the heart and the will to do it has to come from the community. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And we can, you know, complain about it all day, but a month ago we redid that park and now the sink is gone. Right? That somebody or some group of people didn't think anybody was looking, and they don't care and don't have any investment into that community. And maybe we can turn that around. I don't know. But certainly there are enough people there who care enough, who can be part of a project, immediately respond to the graffiti. Because like broken windows syndrome, it starts accumulating. And then next thing you know, it's a slum, right? But if you have quick response, and we did it in Lamont, we did it with kids, one sheriff's deputy and a bunch of kids, ragtag kids. And we were out there on the spot. And we were just cover it up. right? And let the forces know, because it's usually a small group of people, that we're here, we're watching, and we're not gonna go away. That's really the way we resolve it. And this body has to do its part too. So thank you for being here. I'm not trying to discourage you, but the issue is really, it's profoundly connected to socioeconomics, culture, the ownership of the parks, et cetera. And yet it's the heartbeat of a community. So I'm with you 100%. I'm all in with your parks. I think your supervisor in the Lamont Park feels the same way. It's a center of influence. So, let's work together in a way that really engages the community, right? And gives them a sense of responsibility and accountability. We can provide the tools, but really the heart has to come from you. So thank you. And I'm very excited about working with you if you're open to that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Gady. I'm the president of the Kern County World War II Veterans Memorial. And talking about parks, I'm here to invite all of you, your staff, and your constituents to our dedication day on Saturday, December 10th at Jastrow Park. So it's going to be quite an event, and we don't have a World War II memorial here yet, but it will be here December 10th. Please come at 10 a.m. We're going to block off Truxton westbound and have bleachers out there. We'll have chairs for dignitaries, even you. And so I want to extend the invitation to all the supervisors to please come and see this long overdue memorial that's going to be a special place of remembrance and dedication, and it's going to bend a lot of hearts. And it's bent mine, but nevertheless, we will be gifting that memorial to the city of Bakersfield after our dedication, and we'll have a ribbon cutting with Mayor Go. So please come, please enjoy, please see your new addition to your county and your city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giddy. That sounds wonderful. Great project. Next speaker, please.
Yes, hi, my name is Michael Watson. I actually provided some documents. I'm here regarding the supportive service village you guys voted on the 8th. Our community does not want it. Nobody asked us, if we wanted it. Nobody told us it was even, planned to go in. I provided some signatures I got yesterday from the neighborhood, that do not want it there. As husbands, wives, parents, you guys would not want it in your neighborhood. Please, reconsider it, put it somewhere else, for my family's safety and my neighbor's safety. It is not something we want, and we beg you, please reconsider it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
I have a handout for all the supervisors. Two. Thank you.
I'll give you mine back. There you go, Press. Okay, we all have them. Please proceed.
Chairman Scrivener, board members, I'm David Hartley, Hartley. As this board is aware, Governor Gavin Newsom has declared that he will eliminate oil and gas production in California in the not too distant future. To that end, Newsom is well ahead of schedule at destroying Kern County's oil production. So today I'm here because the legislature has recently passed and Newsom has signed SB 1137, also known as the 3,200-foot oil and gas setback bill that takes effect January the 1st, 2023. That's 1 month away. This bill is very onerous and will prevent new drilling within this setback distance from housing, schools, hospitals, etc., and will prevent repairing of existing wells within the setback. So, no new drilling and existing wells will be destined to die because the law will prevent repairs requiring a permit, so-called NOI, Notice of Intent. The rationale for the bill was health and safety, but in most cases, the housing and other structures encroached on the wells themselves, not the other way around. The author of the bill exempted underground gas storage fields because that would precipitate an almost immediate calamity, not the slower, insidious destruction that is the preferred way of diminishing our lifestyle here in California. Of course, the bill makes no sense, and it's designed to hasten the oil industry's destruction, but that's a whole different discussion. So, the oil industry has a very narrow window of time left to submit projects before the setback becomes effective. Basically 1 month, December 2022. That's all the time we've got left.
Mr. Hartley, could you please bring your comments to a close? You've exceeded your 2 minutes. Thank you.
What you may not know is that CalGEM was quietly approving new drilling while Kern County's oil permitting was on legal ice. Now that the ordinance is back into effect, the ordinance itself is the main obstacle in getting permits filed with CalGEM during this month-long December window, ahead of the effect of the setback bill because the permits must pass through the county before moving on to CalGEM. Furthermore, in a November 16, 22 letter, which I have right here and you have, to oil companies from CalGEM, CalGEM announced that it will reach its own, this is a quote, its own conclusion on whether and how to approve the project. I'm closing right now. Given this backdrop, I respectfully request that the board place on the agenda for your December 6th meeting a discussion and a potential action item to temporarily suspend the oil and gas ordinance known as the Kern County Oil and Gas SR EIR. I'm available for questions if the board has any.
Thank you, sir. I don't see any questions.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Judy Hyatt, and I'm a board member of the Kern River Valley Senior Citizen, Inc., and I'm here today to say thank you to your board. Item number 24 on the consent agenda was voted on and passed, and we appreciate the donation from Supervisor Peters. It's much needed. Kern River Valley Senior Citizens, Inc. is a new organization in the sense that it has a brand new board, and we've set some goals in place to improve the quality of life in the Kern River Valley. One of the reasons, something that happened just a week ago, the clerk of the board received an email from a resident in Kernville who was having difficulty, and I could read or hear the angst in his voice just reading the email about getting medical help. We have an agreement with Jeremy Oliver that if things are going on in Kern Valley that somebody needs to take a look at fairly quickly, let's do it. We're there, we're on the ground, boots on the ground, and within a matter of days, this man had his medical treatment. He had transportation to get back and forth. He's a man in his mid-80s. He plays a mean blues guitar, I'll tell you. He's a really talented man. And I just want to say thank you for allowing the Senior Citizens, Inc. to help you help us, just as you're asking the folks in the areas of the parks that are so impacted by negative actions on the part of the residents. We're a positive force, and we're going to get bigger, and thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Peters.
I just wanted to say thank you as well, Judy, and thank you to Debbie as well, and all your board. You guys are doing an outstanding job up there. You guys are providing a very needed service, and you guys are doing a fantastic job of it. So anything we can do to help, just let me know.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor. Next speaker, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Joy Kennedy. I live in Edmondson Acres outside of Arvin. I am here today to be a voice for the voiceless. The rising numbers of cats and dogs on our streets and all over our county. Every day I read and hear about the dozens of animals dumped and left to fend for themselves. It's gotten way out of control. The pounds are full. Pets are being killed to make room for new ones coming in. People with hearts have opened their homes and lives to let the strays in, housing, feeding, vetting, loving, but it cannot continue. Most of us animal lovers are at or over our limits, physically and emotionally. Since groceries, pet food, vet care, all are constantly rising, it's a struggle to make ends meet, and that's a daily worry. But the animals have no control over being thrown out of yards, dumped out of vehicles late at night, becoming pregnant, not understanding why they are suddenly out on their own with no food, no shelter, no love. People are to blame. People who think animals are disposable, throwaway things. Blaming the pounds is not an option. They are full, understaffed, physically incapable of handling more. The SPCA simply turns people away when they are full. What else can they do? They're no kill. But that animal will probably land right back on the street, just like before. Soon we'll have stray animals crowding the streets, fighting for food and territory, repopulating like never before. Then what? We're gonna put a bounty on their heads? $5 if you kill an animal that someone else threw away like trash? I hope not. Our society is chaotic and abusive enough. The Animal Commission says, not enough money, not an idea that will work, etc. Well, I think it's time now to find ideas that will work and enforce them. We've had enough. For the sake of your county, your constituents, these innocent animals, please help us come up with a workable solution to be implemented as soon as possible. We've already cried enough unhappy tears over these innocent creatures.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Christina Dozier, and I just wanted to elaborate on what Mike, my neighbor, said about the homeless center being on Hart Street. Most of us are really low income, 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet. These people, I mean, I agree we need a center for them, but I'm not sure that would be the best neighborhood. I mean, shopping cart on my property, that would burden me. I had to have to pass up a bill just to handle that if I got, you know, and more. I deal with them at my job, my second job downtown. They just, I don't know what's going on with them, but the litter, the chaos, you know? So maybe if you guys could rethink that. And I didn't know until he told me that it was going there. We had no information about it, no letters to our house that we normally would have. So I just wanted to elaborate on that.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any other speakers? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Adam Hare. I represent a small woman-owned business here in Bakersfield. And I just wanted to reiterate, you guys, I strongly want you guys to consider putting what Mr. Hartley said onto your December 6th meeting. I firmly believe that it's the government's intent, most of the government's intent, to crush us. And it's hard for us to sit and watch the news every morning when we hear that a president who doesn't want to drill asked Venezuela for help producing oil and gas, and yet we're sitting here fighting 3,500-foot setbacks on existing wells when it can easily be done. We can support our community with the money that's created from that, all the way down to families of people that I support in my small business. So I hope you strongly consider that, putting that on the December 6th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers, please?
Yeah, my name is Brett Cooper. I'm a small oil and gas operator out on Round Mountain Road. Sounds like we've got money problems in the county, and the one way to solve it is to let the oil and gas industry solve those problems for you. As a small operator through the years, I've had freshwater ponds at one time I could raise fish in. Regional Water Quality Control Board years ago took those ponds from me. My water's technically fresh water, could be used. State's not going to allow us to do that. Just as a small operator, in the last 2 years, I've spent almost $100,000 doing academia reports for the state of California, just to now inject that water back into the ground. The county needs to understand that we have a lot of oil still left in this town, and a lot of people that are willing to work and come up with some great ideas to use the oil and the resources that come from these oil and gas properties. We can solve a lot of the problems that these people have here if you just unleash the oil and gas industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers, please? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I would like Lorelei Oviatt, our Director of Planning and Natural Resources, to be provided an opportunity to respond on the specific item regarding the request for an item on our oil and gas EIR at our next meeting, December 6th. Ms. Oviatt, would you care to comment?
Chairman Scribner, through the board, this is an unfortunate situation where the state of California has passed this setback, which goes into effect January 1st. If you have an existing well and you need a permit to rework it so that it can continue operating, you would need that by the end of the year. If this goes into effect January 1st, then you could not rework it. And therefore, at some point, you would have to abandon it before its life was over. I would note that the request is that your board consider suspending this ordinance. That would require a noticed public hearing. There is not enough time for me to send out a notice for a December 6th hearing. If you suspend it on December 13th, you still would not be enough time. There are legal issues involved in a suspension. We are right now in front of Judge Pulskamp with a request from the other side, the environmentalist who would like to keep all the oil in the ground, that we do suspend permitting, and we're waiting right this minute for Judge Pulskamp's decision. They have then filed an emergency stay with the appeals court to stop all oil permitting. That is until the appeals court takes it up, which is 2 years. That would be a stop of oil permitting for 2 years. I believe that your board, considering suspending this ordinance, plays into the hands of the environmental opposition to this permitting. I have noted that my people are working. Some of them worked on Thanksgiving weekend to do this permitting that's necessary. We are prioritizing, as we have told the industry, new oil well drills and 3,200-foot setback new oils and 3,200-foot setback existing wells. We have a priority. We have 400 permits, not thousands of permits, as some consultant has said. We do not have thousands of permits submitted. I am not aware of whether they have submitted those permits, but they are all asterisked, prioritized, and I have people who are working overtime, Saturday, Sunday. We have brought on extra people. Your board, yourself, your chairman, has spoken to Governor Newsom and CalGEM about permitting. The idea that if we suspend the ordinance, CalGEM will then jump on all these permits has not been any evidence that we have received over the past year. These mitigations are important to the community. A notice of intent to rework does not pay the same kinds of mitigations that a oil well drilling, so the cost is not the same as drilling, and many of those mitigation measures don't apply. I would urge anyone who is an oil and gas producer, if you have not submitted your permits for the 3,200-foot setback or for a rework on a 3,200-foot setback, please submit them now. We will get them turned around, and then it's up to you to get CalGEM to move them forward. As lead agency, our oil and gas CIR, CalGEM has said they will use it as lead agency. It's a misspeak of the November 16th letter to say that they are not respecting our oil and gas CIR. They will use it, they will issue permits, and the issue is your permits before that were issued, and you utilized the oil and gas CIR and they were conditional. That's all they were talking about, and that is a small group of permits. So certainly I am at the pleasure of the board, but the representatives from the oil industry who are funding this litigation are not in here right now to let you know their thoughts. And I believe that in our joint defense, it would be important for their thoughts to be taken into account as to whether we should have a hearing that plays into the hands of the environmental groups who have sued for the last 10 years. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oviatt. I have two board members that have punched in. Normally, I would only give speakers one opportunity, but if you want to respond directly, I will allow, but after my board members. I have Supervisor Couch and Maggard, and then I will go straight to you, Mr. Hartley. Thank you. Well, it looks like you just got one more up in the line. Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very complicated issue, and I don't understand all the nuances of it, but I am absolutely certain that these gentlemen do not want to play into the hands of the environmentalists who want to shut them down. So is it possible for you to be available to meet with them to try to see if there is any other plan that might help them move their projects forward? As I understand it, their concern is that if they go through our process, it will put them in a position that the state will have a different opportunity to put leverage on them. Beyond that, they need to explain that themselves, and that's beyond the scope of this meeting. But would you be willing, Ms. Oviatt, or your staff to sit down with them and partake in such a meeting?
Of course, I do believe their issue is just timing. You know, we have to take our 7 days to give them a permit, and then they have to submit it to CalGEM. So I believe that is the timing that they are referring to. But certainly I can meet with them. If this meeting is to help facilitate their permits, I certainly will appreciate taking that meeting.
Thank you. And I'm not asking us to do anything that disturbs all the other people who are in the process of trying to get their permits approved. You know, that there's I don't want this to be a win-lose and anybody to lose. But gentlemen, if you could give some contact information to Ms. Oviatt through Mr. Murphy, the fellow sitting to her right there, maybe you guys can get an opportunity to sit down and talk about if there's another solution that might work for you. Thank you.
Mr. Hartley?
Thank you for the opportunity to address a couple of comments. The most important comment I could make is that CalGEM was quietly permitting new wells as well as other items such as reworks that require a permit, notwithstanding the fact that your ordinance was on ice. So it didn't matter to CalGEM whether there was a Kern County ordinance in place or not. That's the first point. Second point is the letter, which I gave you a copy of, they specifically stated therein, and I'm going to use my words, that they don't really care about your ordinance. They're going to make their own decision on whether to permit a project or not, based upon their own criteria. So the Kern County ordinance becomes mooter and mooter with time. It just has not turned out to be what it was intended to be. It was intended to be some grease for the skids to enable permitting to proceed quicker. And over the years, with all the litigation, and particularly with what CalGEM is saying now, and particularly with what we're faced with now, the timing issue, it's actually in our way to address the 3,200-foot setback issues. What we're asking for is a temporary suspension of it. Maybe it would be appropriate longer range to have it scrapped entirely, but that's not what we're asking today. And we do know that the director's office has permits right now that have been in there for 2 weeks, and they're not out of her office yet. And so CalGEM has a 10-day statutory requirement to approve of a permit properly submitted to them. And while your ordinance is in effect, properly submitted means it has to pass through the director's office first. That burns time. So effectively, we have until about the 20th of December to be able to get a permit into CalGEM so that they have the 10 days of statutory time to approve, which if they don't do it, technically, they're out of it. We're able to proceed without them, even though few people have attempted it. So if you're submitting permits to them on the 20th, the 25th, and they take their 10 days or longer, you're simply out. So we're really looking at a 20-day window, and having the county out of the way is the best way. And we do not intend, as Mr. Maggart pointed out, to play in the hands of the environmentalists. We're one of the few groups here that actually do have a plan to defeat, these crazy people that do want to shut us down and leave it in the ground. The other people, I think, are so shell-shocked, they simply don't know what to do, and that's why they're not here and why you have not heard from them. They do not have a plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hartley. Supervisor Couch, did you want to make a comment? I see you punched in.
Yeah, thank you. Is this, well, I want to assure you guys that we would love to see every permit that has been requested given. We're in the middle of litigation on this. Can we get this back into closed session for, we ought to have it in almost every meeting, in my opinion, just to give us an update on where we are and if there are new options. So I would like to see that agendized a lot more frequently. And I would like to see us be able to discuss it on the 6th. That okay?
I will get it on your agenda.
Okay. And Supervisor Maggard basically sort of said what I was thinking, and that is, I think this meeting that he's suggesting you have with them happen today, as soon as we're done here. If possible, it can be in the foyer as far as I'm concerned, but imparting to them what you need from them and them telling you what you need. And do you need from us, if you've got to work quickly, if you've got to, do you need additional staff on a temporary basis? Sorry.
Supervisor Couch, through the chair, I've already brought on staff. The issues, as you know, in the workforce of hiring are a problem, but I have brought on extra help. I have taken people off of other planning projects of other developers who probably don't know I've taken their staff off, and we are working around the clock on these permits. It is true that these first 2 weeks have been a slow startup, since when you bring on new people, you have to teach them how to permit, but in reality, it's also the permittees who submit to us. They have to submit the right information to us. Just like they submit to CalGEM, they have to submit to us. So we are up and running. We did let them take off on Thanksgiving Day in order to have turkey, but many of them came in the day after, even though it's a holiday, and we're paying them double, as well as the Thanksgiving weekend. So I would be more than happy to meet with them. I do want to know if their permits have been submitted. I will make sure that their permits are put at the top of the list tomorrow morning. So I would like to meet with them right after we are done here, and I would like to know if they have submitted their permits. And if their permits, if they can give me those numbers or the names of their companies, because we have prioritized them. I actually worked on the Sunday of the Thanksgiving weekend talking to many, many operators, small and big, asking them what their priorities were. So we are attempting to address that issue. Certainly, there are complicated issues with suspending the ordinance, not including just the legal, but the actual mechanism of doing it, the mechanism itself.
I understand.
So let me meet with them afterwards, and I will find out if their permits have been submitted and where we're at with that. I will also go back and find out where our where our permitting is. I just checked with them before I came over, but I'll check with them before I leave tonight.
In any case, I appreciate your efforts and your staff's efforts. I know those guys do. In any case, it's about to hit the fan for everybody. Even if you got every one of their permits that they've submitted approved, January 1 is a mess and is a catastrophe for the oil industry. Even if everybody gets their permits approved that they've already submitted. So that's what I wanted to continue for us to be able to continue to talk about more in closed session. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor and Ms. Soviet. And we have 2 items remaining on our agenda, I believe, for this afternoon. And so the faster we get through those, the faster your meeting can commence. And so we appreciate your comments. I don't think we had any other speakers for public comment. And so seeing none, then we'll move on to board member announcements and reports. Anything from the board? Okay. Then we'll move on to the final item, which is item number 4. This is an item under Planning and Natural Resources Department, and this is a continued hearing. Ms. Oviatt, can you describe this item for us, please?
Thank you so much. This project is originally heard by your board on September 27th, 2022 as one of 31 separate cases which proposed staff-initiated changes to various land use designations on 57 parcels throughout unincorporated Kern County. This case, which was called case number 20, was continued to today's hearing to allow for continuing discussions between the proposed developer, the adjacent property owners, and the supervisor's office for this district. Due to conflicting schedules and Thanksgiving holidays, many of those meetings did not occur. Therefore, we are asking that you continue this to your scheduled hearing on January 24th, 2023, and in the meantime, those discussions can occur. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oviatt. I understand the request for the continuance. I would turn to council and ask, do we need to take public comment? I suppose if public comment isn't desired, then we can just move on. Yeah, I didn't see you punch in. Excuse me, Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, Chairman. Am I on here? So I've spoken with several folks involved here, in particular our complainant who, got to do some work with, no doubt. And we've had some challenges with my chief of staff left my office after 10 years in the last 3 weeks, and so we've had some reshuffling. It's been very hectic. So my deep apologies. We did get a chance to connect before this, and we do have a date and time set to meet next week, which I'm looking forward to. And so we have discussed that issue, and I'm looking forward to sitting down and getting to know more, frankly. So just for your indulgence, Chairman.
Thank you. So do we need a motion for the continuance, or is this request? Okay. And so that would be until, did I hear the December 6th meeting or after? What was the date?
January
24th. Oh, I'm sorry.
January 24th.
January 24th. 2023. January 24th. Okay, so the motion then is to continue this item until January 24th, 2023. So do we have a motion to that effect?
I will make that motion. So.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. And having no additional items to consider, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, December 6th at 9 a.m.
So moved.
We are adjourned.